Hey, good evening, everybody. It's the 23rd anniversary of the September 11, 2001 terrorist attacks. And usually in the past couple of years, I do like a special collab session. I think I did it with Sean Russell, the other half of the Beyond Ground Zero last year. And so this year, it's the other half of Beyond Ground Zero podcast. Darin Harvey's with us today. Darin, what's up, brother?
Hey Adam, how you doing today, man? It's a privilege to be on with you today to talk. It's a very historical event that happened 23 years ago, and how today it still affects us after 23 years later. And we should never forget that event. So I'm glad to talk to you about it today. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, no, it's actually a privilege to speak with you. And this and 9/11 is so expansive. I mean, we could go anywhere,
For
but
sure.
I like to
Yep.
keep it relevant. And I think we
Sure.
both agreed to keep it relevant. And, you know, one of the glaring conspiracies involving 9/11 is pre-intelligence, the
Hmm.
missed warnings,
Yes.
the intentional withholding of information. So what we want to do today is me and Darren, we want to go over these missed warnings and these uh, revelations that were not shared
Right.
with the State Department, with the FBI, with the National Intelligence Center, and all these apparatuses that probably, if they had the information, could have stopped nine
For
11
sure.
from even happening.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
So we're going to start with the Al Qaeda Yemen hub. Right now, this
Yes.
is for those who don't know. There was a hub located in the capital of Sana'a of Yemen. The house was owned by an associate of bin Laden from the Afghan war days named Ahmed al Hada. So what I'm trying to say is that Al Qaeda living in countries, repressive Arab socialist countries like Syria, Lebanon,
Hmm.
Iran, they want to pass messages to Al Qaeda and their affiliates worldwide. So what they would do is they would send coded messages or even outright talk on the phone to this house in Yemen. And then they'll send the message over because their
Hmm.
phone's not being tapped because Yemen's a Al Qaeda affiliate country. They'll send it to the recipient. It could be either Bin Laden, Dr. Ayman
Right.
al-Zawahiri, or any other Al Qaeda hierarchy or whatever, right? So, all right, Darren, the intelligence hub in Yemen, where does it go wrong?
Well, I'll actually go a little back a little bit. If you look at the U.S. embassies that got bombed in Nairobi and Tanzania, I believe it was FBI agent John Anchiff who
Yeah,
I believe interrogated. I think it was Owali,
Muhammad
Muhammad
al-Ohali, right?
Owali. Yeah, he got the phone number to that Al Qaeda hub in Yemen. Of course, the FBI did what they were supposed to. They passed that intel on to the CIA.
Right.
So what's interesting about the Yemen hub, in at least in my opinion, is Ahmed Al Hada is his son-in-law Khalid Al Mihdhar. So Khalid Al Mihdhar's father-in-law is the Al Qaeda hub there, in Yemen, and that intel is getting passed on, like I said, to like you said, Bin Laden, whoever the associates are. Well, those phones are tapped, so the NSA, the CIA are listening in on these phone calls, right? Well, the CIA gets wind of some traveling. So through Khalid Al Mihdhar, he was traveling, I believe, with Nawaf Al Hazmi and a character named Khalad to Bangkok. And there they were met by an associate named Fahad Al Kuzo. Now, I want people to remember these names. Fahad Al Kuzo, Khalad, and Al Mihdhar are very important. So they meet up in Bangkok, and Fahad Kuzo gives them, I believe he gives them that money, and I think that was there to. I thought they were going to buy like a wooden leg for Kalad, and so they get that money, and we know that money is there for their travels into the United States.
Right.
Okay, well, the CIA gets wind of this, and they go to his hotel room there in Dubai, and
Right.
they take pictures of his passport into the United States. Okay, now they're going to have that Malaysian summit meeting there in Kuala Lumpur, And there, the CIA has the Malaysian authorities take pictures of this meeting. Now, this meeting has all the bigwigs, right? So we got KSM, Khalad, Nawaf al-Hazmi, Khalil Madar, Fahad Kuzo. I believe is Ramzi bin al-Shib there.
Yeah,
So
Ramsey.
yeah, so all the bigwigs are there. There they get the Malaysian gets pictures of the so-called event. Okay, so now this, and in a sense, the CIA. So the CIA has pictures of Khalid Madar, Nawaf al-Hazmi, has these guys who are going, in their travels. Okay, and they have pictures of them, and they have names to them. So they're there. I think the summit meeting's there from what is it? January 5th through 8th,
That's
I
correct.
believe it is. Yep. So after that meeting, Al Middar and Al Hazmi go into the United States in January 15th of 2000. Okay. Now, there's one guy I really want to harness in on, and that's Khalid Al Middar, because his travels are so important. Okay. So he goes into the United States, Adam, January 15th, 2000, with Nawaf Al Hazmi. El Middar leaves the United States in June. He,
That's
he
correct.
leaves, I think, June 10th to go back to Yemen to be with his wife.
Right. Because
Okay.
his wife was pregnant.
So
Right.
from June they said he leaves late, correct. Well, during that time he's there in Yemen, what happens? We have the USS Cole attack.
Right.
Okay. Now, according to Ali Soufan, FBI agent there, true hero, probably could have stopped 9/11 if he had the intel at the time. He's there and to do the investigation. He interrogates Fahad Al-Kuzo, the guy we talked about, talks about Khalad, the wooden peg man. So now, Soufan has this, okay, Khalad, he was there at this Malaysian summit meeting, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now he's named in the USS Cole. Because Khalad was named as one of the alleged masterminds of the USS Cole, along with Fahad Al-Kuzo, and I believe Muhammad Jamal Al-Badi. I think he was there to buy the boat and electronics. And
Correct.
then the Yemeni prime minister says Al-Mihdar was part of the plot. So now we have Khalid Madar, Fahad Al-Kuzo, and Khalad at that Malaysian summit meeting. Now they just did attack on the USS Cole. Because Al-Kuzo was supposed to record the event, but he fell asleep.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So now we have that. So the CIA has pictures of these guys, yet Soufan, who's doing the investigation, has nothing. Okay. He just has a name. Okay. Going back to El Mihdar, Mihdar goes, like I said, he goes back to Saudi Arabia at the end of December. I think he goes to live with a cousin in Mecca. And then in February 2001, he goes to Afghanistan. Okay. Now, from Afghanistan in February to June, he goes back to go back to the United States. At this time, El Mihdar is not on the watch list. The FBI has no clue who he is. July 4th, Adam, what happens? Al Mihdar goes back to the United States. And then from there, him and Al Hazmi hijack Flight 77 that runs into the Pentagon. Okay. So the reason I'm bringing this up is the CIA had pictures of these guys, yet
Yes.
the FBI had no clue. The FBI should have found out when they did the interrogation of Fahad Al-Kuso at the USS Cole about these guys, and nothing,
Right.
absolutely nothing. So these are the red flags. These are the pre-intelligence failures that we have that could have stopped 9/11. Because all Soufan needed is pictures of Khalad, pictures of El Mihdar back in 2000. And what's going to happen? They're going to stop the plot. They're going to find who these guys are, put them on watch lists, and, the rest
Yeah.
is history. Correct?
Yeah.
So I know it's a long thing I just said, but Elmedar's travel and along with Kalad is so important just because Kalad was involved with the embassy bombings, and now Kalad's involved with the USS Cole. They were at this summit meeting, and Elmedar is there, and Elmedar goes back to Yemen from the United States to be part of the USS Cole, and then he goes back the following year into the United States. That is either gross malfeasance. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but
Ooh.
like I said, that's something I really wanted to hone in on. Is like we know about hijackers Muhammad Atta, who is the alleged ringleader of 9/11 of the planes operation in the United States. We know about Ziad Jar. We know about his family history. Um, with Ali and Assam Jara. So we know about these hijackers and how important they are, but Elmedar's traveling and being involved with the USS Cole is something I don't think it's talked about much because they could have had them there back in 2000 and they failed because
Yes.
Sufan
Yes.
did not have the information that he should have had. Okay, so that's my feeling on it regarding with the USS Cole and the Yemen hub.
Bang on, Darin. Yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite areas, by the way, because it's the Malaysia Summit USS Cole link to the 9/11 hijackers, the first ones that came in the United States. Um, yes, Yemen hub. For me, for years, Darin, it's always been the nexus of 9/11. You wanted to break the intelligence services. If you wanted to break, show a conspiracy happened, foreknowledge, maybe even it starts with the Yemen hub because like you just said, the NSA and CIA were already wiretapping the house. And that began approximately in 1996. Okay.
Right.
With that being said, if the operation of like 9/11 was talked about and the NSA had this information or the CIA had this information, I'm not saying they did, but if they did and they knew about it, it didn't tell anybody, hey, by the way, me and Darin just told you one of the biggest conspiracies in human history. Okay. And everybody loves a conspiracy regarding 9/11, but they look at the wrong ones. We have it right here. And like you said before, too, and we have names to go along with these
Sure.
faces. All
Absolutely.
right. It's like we're not just saying, oh, there was a bunch of shadowy figures planting bombs in the World Trade Center. Well, I'm not an engineer and I don't know who put the bombs in the building because we don't know. We don't know
Right.
who did it. So let's just go with the conspiracy that we have
Right.
names and faces we can relate to. Then
Right.
maybe we can get to them, maybe, right? So I love that we talked about this right off the bat because at least now we have some players on the board where we could just say, aha, that's where one failure began and another failure, right? So, okay, Darin, my next question to you is basically, all right, from here, right? The conspiracy gets a little bit bigger because now Al Midor and Al Hazmi are inside the United States. What are the other failures that happen here while they're inside the United States?
Well, there's there's
Yeah,
plenty of them. There's plenty of them. Which
I'll
ones are
let
you
you
looking?
just,
Which
I'll
one are
let
you
you
looking
just
at? Which one are
I'll
you
let
looking
you
at?
just. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know it was a very broad question. All right, so Al Midar and Hazmi are inside the
Yep.
United States.
Yep.
CIA, NSA know about it.
Yep.
Did they tell the FBI? Did they tell the State Department? And what other foreign intelligence were here watching them as well?
Exactly. So we know about Alex Station, right? And I think we talked about Alex Station and ad nauseum.
Yeah.
But with Alex Station, they knew they were in the United States. Yeah, I know because Michael Shore, Richard Blee, whoever at the time, I think it was Richard Blee was in charge at the
Yeah,
time.
Richard Blee was.
Um,
Yes.
yeah, but Michael Shore before that hated John O'Neill. They would not pass intel to
Huh?
each other. It was a turf war. They both were stubborn guys, very smart guys, but stubborn. They would not. Shore on was probably more. He'd not share intel because he basically called the FBI a bunch of cowboys. They go around arresting people, and he felt like by doing that, that destroys that takes away from getting the bigger guys. You get these low level guys, but you don't get the main characters,
Right.
and that's why the CIA didn't like to pass the intel. Okay, but if you look at you're talking about with the Canistero files, right? Stuff like that. We come to find out is the CIA is also running an illegal operation with the Saudis. Okay, and I know you're going to touch on it soon. We just got a brand new article from the Florida Bulldog.
Yep.
Um, and I suggest everybody go read that as soon as possible. After this video, read it. I mean, we're now learning of basically pre preemptive thinking, almost like a premeditated thinking from the Saudis and the CIA about, okay, before Nawaf Hazmi and Al Midar come in, we got to make sure everything's going well. I'll just leave it at that. So they're making this, they're planning this preemptive operation already in place before the two Al Qaeda members come in. Okay, so we had the Castro files that talks about these illegal operation from the Saudis, from the CIA, and the CIA not passing intel to the FBI. Because if the FBI found out that Nawaf Hazmi and Khalil Madar were in the United States and they had that info, especially from the Malaysian summit meeting, right? They're they're going to arrest them. They're going to go investigate them, and probably more like John O'Neill. John O'Neill's going to arrest them, right? So if that's the case, you just took out the West Side. So you don't have Al Hazmi, you don't have El Madar. Okay, I don't know if you have Hani Hanjor. Did they get him as well? You're taking the whole West Side out of this operation. So does 9/11 even happen, or is it delayed? Is it partial 9/11? We don't know,
Right.
but at least the West Side is going to be taken care of. And if they, interrogate them, do they find out more about the East Side with the Israelis monitoring the hijackers there on the East Side? Okay, so we we have a lot of things going on a year before year and a half before 9/11. But the main thing to take from is the FBI did not know that these guys were in the country. And that's FBI's territory. That's not CIA. That's FBI's territory. And they did not pass the info. And I know Mark Rossini was on, I call it Twitter, and he's still you can tell he's still shook up about
Yeah.
what happened, knowing that I know he feels guilty, like he thinks he should have stopped it and whatever, but he wasn't allowed to share that info. He was not given that clearance, and he couldn't do it. And him and Doug Miller, had the opportunity, and
Mm.
they were not allowed. They were told, we think a terrorist attack's going to happen in Southeast Asia. That's what they were told.
Yep.
So there you go. That's in a nutshell. Basically, the FBI was not told that two known Al Qaeda operatives were in the United States.
Yeah. And look, God's sakes, let's expound on this a little bit with Mark Rossini, right? Because we both were messaging him today. And Mark Rossini and Doug Miller, now they don't know that Al Midar and Al Hazmi were planning 9/11 or being involved in any type of operation. They just knew that here we have two Al Qaeda guys with a penchant for terrorism that were inside the United States. That's all they knew at that time. These two guys. Now, the protocol for writing a Central Intelligence Report or a CIR is to basically whatever information you're using, whether it's CIA, NSA, DIA, whatever, right? You have to get authority. Now, since they were working at the Bin Laden Issue Station, codenamed Balak Station, Mark Rossini, Doug Miller, who drafted the cable, had to go to the deputy director at the time, who is Tom Wilshire. Wilshire sends his lead analyst for the Yemen hub, investigating the Yemen hub, Michelle and Casey,
And Casey, yep.
to basically, tell Doug Miller, please hold off per Wilshire on the cable. Mark Rossini sees this, goes to Michelle and Casey and says, what's the holdup? These guys are inside the United States, and she tells him, you can't use this information. We'll let the FBI know when we let them know. We think the next attack is in Southeast Asia. But they're here in the United States. So
Right.
that means something is afoot. Now, Rossini can get in big legal trouble by
Yes.
sharing classified information, right? So he can't do it. Neither can Doug Miller or any FBI agent without CIA authority. Now, just imagine you're Doug Miller and Mark Rossini, and 9/11 happens, and these two guys are involved. Yeah, I would be devastated too, and it would probably haunt me for the rest of my life, thinking that, wow, I could have stopped it if I had to share it, but he didn't know it at the time. right? He didn't know what was going on. So this
Right.
is exactly what me and Darin are like talking about, relating to you, the viewer, in regards to actual conspiracies and people that were involved in these conspiracies of either a cover up or just gross malfeasance. Either way, even if it's just malfeasance, nobody got fired for this, right? 2,997 people are dead. You would think the DCI or the director of operations of the CI, James Pavitt, he's dead now, would have been fired, at least fired. No, the tenant was actually given the Presidential Medal of Freedom just a couple years later. So, I mean, and this is just, Darren, this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of intelligence failures, right? Because my next question for you is Israel, Saudi Arabia.
Mhm.
Okay, they are also in the United States. What are they doing, Darren?
Wow, that's a great question, isn't it, Adam? What is the Israelis doing in the United States
Right,
on the East Coast? Well, it's a good question. We know they had over 200 Israeli art students in the United States. We know about them following the hijackers living next to them. We know about Urban Moving Systems, a front company that was in the United States. Um, so yeah, there's a we, we'll never know, right?
right,
I know the Gerald Shea memorandum has been great. I know you've been reading that.
right,
Um, but why are we having foreign intelligence agencies in the United States running these illegal operations? I don't know. I mean, what's going on here, right? So we have the West Coast being covered, and we have the East Coast following and monitoring these hijackers, well, future hijackers, I should say. And the East Coast is bad. I mean, they traveled. They went from Florida to New York to Boston. They followed them wherever they went. Um, and it, I don't know if it'll ever be explained what they were doing and why they were monitoring them. But we have evidence of it seems like they were kind of happy by doing so, as we know about
mm,
the dancing Israelis. Um, and I guess it's kind of off topic a little bit. People talk about how Israel did not, and you did a great video about Israel 9/11.
ah, thank you.
I I think it's lazy research when you say Israel did 9/11.
Yeah,
I
right,
think there's pre-intelligence, but we can talk about that maybe they had foreknowledge and maybe what's going on. Because remember, and it's so important what you said, who benefited from 9/11? It was Israel. It wasn't Afghanistan. It wasn't Iraq. None of these Middle East countries benefited but Israel, right? Because we attacked the countries that were threats to Israel, right? So I think it's pretty speculative on my part to say they knew of a Al Qaeda operation happening and maybe just let it seep through.
right,
And that's evidenced by the celebration of it. I mean, there's witnesses, there's video. I mean, I know there's video of them doing so, and then when they got arrested by Scott DiCarlo there in New Jersey, and
mm,
the first thing they said is, "We're not your problem. It's the Palestinians are your problems." And what's important about that UMS fan is it also tested positive for explosives. So
correct.
why would a moving company that has no furniture have explosives in it? A lot of red flags, right? A lot of speculative
Oh,
talk we can do, but it's
yes,
definitely a red flag, in our opinion.
yes. It's not irrational speculation. As like, fake planes,
No,
hologram planes, something like this. There is reasonable speculation. I'm not one to like criticize every conspiracy theory. I am a conspiracy theorist, I guess, because I do believe in some conspiracies that actually did happen, and we're talking about some of them even here today.
right,
But it frustrates me. I know it
right.
does you, so it frustrates me when I see certain people spread the same fringe material. And today, like for example, I saw an MMA great, somebody I really like in MMA history, Jake Shields,
You
who
posted
actually
Eddie Kern's video.
Darren, I want to squeeze. I know I can't. He'll
You,
probably
you know,
triangle me or something.
yeah, I know.
But I'm like,
You know who else? You
what's
know
that?
what's funny? You know who else posted that video of Eddie Current? Owen Schroyer from Panic from
Oh,
Yeah,
Did he really?
from
I
Infowars. Owen did. Oh, he sure did. And it got you know he get those community notes to show that hey
yeah,
you're
yeah,
wrong.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
you got one of those.
I have him on block so I can't see. So I'm like, I hate that Troyer too, man.
Well,
But
real
yeah,
quick,
look,
I
yeah,
just
go
want
ahead, go ahead.
just 2 minutes here.
Yeah,
23 years. We're 23 years in.
yeah,
And if you're going around talking about there was no planes to use on 9/11, I have a big fu for you. Eh,
right, right.
screw you, because that is the most disrespectful thing you can do to those the victims, the families. They're the ones that suffering, right? They still haven't gotten closure. They still have not gotten closure after 23 years
Yeah,
because the government has not told them exactly what happened that day. And this is not me being a conspiracy. Nelson, everyone's done great information into the cover ups at the airports. We have not been told everything. The 9/11 Commission report did not tell us everything. Okay. There's so much information out there to talk about regarding 9/11, the pre-intelligent failures, the red flags leading up to it. And here we are talking about there was no planes used on 9/11. That is the stupidest thing I ever heard of. It's dumb. It's idiotic. It's ignorant. It's beyond everything stupid. It's dumb. It's just I don't get people that I just don't get why people think that's rational. It's okay to question 9/11 because
right.
things happen, and there might be some things that make you like, that's interesting. But to go there and say that no planes were used, that is the biggest slap in the face, and you honestly should be embarrassed to even say that.
Sure. Sure. Look, Darren, I'll harp on it again. I know we're free throwing it today. It's a collab, with just expressing our thoughts on certain things. But, you know, when I made that video the other day with Israel and 9/11, because it's such a taboo subject, it's been ruined by fringe conspiracy theorists. I wanted to show that, look, yes, there are conspiracies. There are.
Sure,
We're not
absolutely,
defenders
absolutely.
of any like this official narrative, whatever that is to these people.
No,
Okay.
trust me, we don't think the CIA, the NSA, the FBI are wonderful agencies. We
Right.
don't believe that at all.
Right.
They yeah, the CIA, especially NSA, they there's malfeasance. They should be reliable for 9/11.
Yes. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, too, because we're also implicating Saudi Arabia and Israel regarding
Absolutely.
pre-intelligence.
For
Okay.
intelligence.
I mean, what is
Absolutely.
the job? I mean, we're right here anyway. What is the job of intelligence? Is to collect information that's a threat to national security, right? You would think that the agencies like the FBI, like the CIA, like the NSA are working in tandem and sharing
To
information
keep
with
us
one
safe.
another to keep us safe. Exactly right. But in this case, that wasn't it. I mean, all right, where do we go to blame certain people? Well, we'll have to look at the congressional investigations. We'll take a look at the inspector general reports of the FBI, CIA. Hey, wait a minute. This is not lining up with this. This is not lining up with this. All right, where's the mistakes made? Oh, wait a minute. There was foreign intelligence involved. Saudi Arabia, there was. What the hell were they doing? It's a huge nexus of conspiracy, folks. We're not here to tell you that, the 9/11 Commission report got it all right. They didn't because they didn't get all the information. And when people like Richard Gage and, Loose Change basically say the entire report is false, that's freaking nonsense. Okay. Because for one, it's an incomplete report. And no one mentions the Able Danger program by the DIA. Nobody mentions the Gerald Shea memorandum, much less the cover up for the Saudi intelligence ring along with CIA. Hey, wait a minute. And they didn't even touch the NSA Yemen hub that we just
Right.
spoke about.
Right.
So, what does that mean? It's an incomplete report.
Incomplete
Okay.
report. Yep.
Right. So, when me and Darren do videos like this, we're not doing it to like propagandize our own audience. That would defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is basically give you verifiable, tangible information so that
Right.
we can grow as a movement as one, get enough people behind wanting a what? A new investigation? Heck, maybe even a court issue? Isn't that what this is all about, Karen? Right? I mean, wouldn't this
Absolutely.
be, yeah,
I,
can you elaborate your thoughts on it?
Absolutely. So, yes, it was 23 years ago, but this is one of the probably most historical events in our lifetime. Correct.
Sure.
I was 18 years old when it happened. I was a young kid. I was getting ready to start college, and I was probably glued to the TV set for a week or two. I just sitting there every day watching the news coverage of 9/11, just thinking like, why did they do this? What's our response going to be? Why did they do this? I didn't know because I didn't even remember the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, which is just is super important, right? Because
Huge,
Ramsey
huge.
Youssef in the court, he said why they attacked. It wasn't for our freedoms or the women or all that stuff.
Right.
It was our Middle East policies, and it was our hypocritical things that we'd done in the past. With he brought up the bombing in Hiroshima back in World War II. He said that we were the terrorists, we were the butchers, we were the liars. And I'm not sympathetic to what he did because what he, of course, he tried to kill innocent people and he did. But
Right.
the point is, the United States government is giving us the narrative of why they attacked us, and it's not what they said. So there's a lie, right? That's a cover up, right? They attacked us because our Middle Eastern policies, Israel, our support for them, meddling in the Middle East over there. That's
Mhm.
always and there's so much more I want to talk about because if you think about it, you can go back to the 1990 and 1981 Gulf War with Bin Laden and how
Right.
he wanted to use his Mujahideen forces to fight Iraq and Saddam,
Correct.
right? Well,
Right.
Saudi Arabia's like, nah, we're bringing United States. He was pissed because they brought him to the Holy Lands.
Right.
He did not
Right.
want the United States in the Holy Lands. He wanted to fight Saddam. So that
Right.
kills that conspiracy there because remember people thought Saddam and Bin
Right.
Laden
Right.
were cahoots.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
hated Saddam. He hated Saddam. He wanted to take care of Saddam. So that right there, the United States just meddling into business, doing going to their country, pissed off Bin Laden because he's going to the Holy Lands, and then of course you go from there, and that's when he started slowly, surely attacking, coexisting with other parties of Al Qaeda to do these simple attacks on the United States, on embassies and and then we have the USS Cole, and then we have the Millennium Plot, and then eventually 9/11. So Ramsey Youssef just, like I said it best. And if your listeners haven't seen that, I recommend them listening to that, or at least get into what he was saying and why we were attacked, because it wasn't for our freedoms and for the women. That is a BS story, because we know Ada, we know all those guys. They were partiers, just like KSM and Ramsey Youssef. They were partiers. They were not
Right.
these religious fundamentalists. They weren't.
Right.
We had Muhammad Atta doing coke and dating pink haired strippers, and we have Ziad Jarrah, who was a big partier. He was westernized. We have all these guys that were not religious fundamentalists that we were told.
It's like you just said poignantly, by the way, regarding just how expansive this topic really is. I mean, we're missing a
I
lot of
know.
history, right? But we do want to basically manage ourselves because anything past an hour, people can't concentrate for
Yeah,
some reason. So that's why
for
we
sure.
kept it recent. And we basically just touched on the recent domestic and gave you the general foreign intelligence mishaps that happened. Because there's so much more that we could explain. But if people go to your channel or mine or Nelson's or Sean's, they can, fill in the blanks for themselves. But it's a lot to go through. Now, don't be, I know the viewers out there, well, I gotta learn so much about it. No, I mean, look, take your time.
Yeah, absolutely,
Go
absolutely.
backwards. If you want to know what happened in the present, you have to go back in the past, just like a
Yep.
detective would.
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm not telling you to do what I do and read, 38,000 pages of the Operation Encore document. I'm single. I could do that, right? People they're married, they have kids or whatever. I don't know how you do it, but you got two kids of your own. So I don't know where you get the time from. But anyway, you all you have to do is take the generalities and get the understanding. It's not that hard, believe it or not. I mean, I'm only by the grace of God I could wipe myself at the age of 54 here, and I'm shooting this out of my bedroom with a moon in the back. I'm not special, or I'm not. I'm
No,
not some
no, I
expert
hear
or,
you.
some authority on the subject. Look, I'm an individual just like you. Yeah, we read a lot, and this is the one subject that we do, and we do care. And we're not doing this for money, and we're not doing this for
Oh
fame.
no,
And what
no,
for me, I want to speak on my behalf. I'll let you have the final word. On my behalf, all I want is basically justice to prevail, right? Because what are we doing this for other than profit or fame? And now look, I don't blame people that make huge, like for example, Nelson makes docuseries, I call it. They don't even films, they're docuseries, and the entire film, I don't know how he does it, is all
it's
news
brilliant.
reports. So it's not even his opinion.
Brilliant.
He's just going by news reports. Like in Paul, this is what impressed me the most about him. It's similar to Paul Thompson. So it's basically it's him taking you through a coordinated timeline of events happening using news reports and verified articles. I mean, you're getting a free education. Besides that guy deserves to get compensated for that. I'm doing 5 minute videos, 10 minute videos using Movie Maker. I mean, I'm not going to ask money, but I'm not interested in that. We are all interested in getting
Right.
down to the bottom line of justice prevailing through the courts, or at the very least, public perception say, yeah, these guys were definitely in on it. But Darin, I mean, what are you in this for?
Well, I'm in this for because I don't feel like justice has been served. I feel like there hasn't been closure for the families at all.
Hmm.
Um, I do it for too is to get exposure because we still have people out there that talk about no planes, no hijackers, and that really actually that people say that. It's actually I think it's absolutely insane
Yeah,
that people still promote those ideas. Just real quick, like I said, if you're interested more in 9/11, I do suggest starting at the 1993 World Trade Center bombing.
sure.
I really can't stress that much. There is more before the Trade Center bombings, but that's really in depth. If you really want to get a good start at the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. Look at Nelson's film on 1993.
The
It's the
best,
best
the
film.
best,
Best
the
film.
best film.
That's the film that hooked me.
Yeah,
So please go to his channel. Maybe you can link it there, Adam, on the bottom,
yeah, I
just so
will. I
people.
will for sure.
But check out
Absolutely.
Nelson's film on 1993 World Trade Center bomb. It goes right into 9/11, and it gives that 8 year period of the difference. So really high start there. Then look at the little red flags. You have the embassy bombings, and then you have the USS Cole, and you have the Millennium Plot. The Millennium Plot, then the USS Cole, and then eventually you have 9/11. Look at those small little red flags. They're trickling through. There, and that will get you to like, wow, these guys were serious. We didn't heed the warnings. Our government did not heed the warnings like they should. They didn't pass the intelligence like they should. That's where you're going to find the malfeasance. That's where you're going to have names. Okay, like I said, we have the Alex Station names, Tom Wilshire. We have Richard Blee, Michelle Ann Casey. We have all those people, Cofer Black, George Tenet. We have all those people that lied during a congressional hearing. And then we have FBI agents like John O'Neill, who passed away, Mark Rossini, Ali Soufan. If Ali Soufan and John O'Neill had this information, if I-49 had this information, 9/11 does not happen. And I
Anyway,
will say that to my
at all.
grave. 9/11 would not have happened if I-49 unit there in New York had the
Right.
information the CIA possessed. So I'm not saying FBI, that FBI section with I-49 is the good one. There's some FBI cover up. Sure. We have the Phoenix memo. We have this thing with Colin Riley over there in Minnesota with the Zacharias Massawi not getting the FISA warrant to search his laptop. Yes, we have that cover up.
Mm,
The I-49 unit could have stopped 9/11, and they would have, but
right.
the intelligence was not passed. And I cannot stress that more and more. Don't worry about controlled demolition. Don't worry about Building 7. Don't worry about that. Worry about the pre-existing intelligence that was not shared. Worry about the red flags that, as intelligence agencies, and our government did not take serious. Could have all that. Take that to heart. Like I said, going forward, start at 1993. That will take you to 9/11.
Right. And, just to add to that, Darren, as well, because I know the Israeli people are saying, where's Israel in 93? Well, guess what? Yes, there was an operative named
Yeah, yeah,
Josie Hadass that rented an apartment to one of the World Trade Center bombers,
in
Mohammed Saleh.
1993.
We
Mhm.
won't, we'll stop it right there because we want you to look at Nelson's film that
Sure.
explains all this in full. I mean, it really is, I think,
And then,
either one of his best films he ever made.
and I'll throw this real quick before we go.
Sure.
We have Josie Hadass, and then you have Ahmadinejad, who could have been a
Correct. Correct.
Mossad mole.
Yes.
So you have two things right there.
Right.
Okay, so if you're looking for that Israeli connection, you're really interested in that. Nelson goes in depth in that in his film.
Hang on in that one. Now, look, we'll end it right here. But Darin, again, for the people out there, where can they find your work and what are you working on in the future?
I am on I'm on Twitter or X. That's where I talk majority of my 9/11 stuff. I'm on Facebook as too. I'm on the Facebook groups. We have a bunch of groups there on Facebook. So you can find me there on Facebook. But Twitter's where I'm back. I don't deal with no planers. So if you're no planer, I can't deal with you. Sorry, I don't have time for that. Future projects, I continue to want to do the collabs with you every week, every 2 weeks, however you want to do it. I did get some new information regarding more people at JFK being
Yes.
arrested. We did find some cool articles on that. I got that sent to him. So he might want to do some kind of revision for the Bajinka film. So I'm helping him with that. Well, I'll help him with that. And then Sean, whenever he's done with the Nick Berg project, we will be doing our Beyond Ground Zero podcast, more episodes. We're going to interview some people. And then I
Oh,
just talked to, I think I just talked to Ben on Twitter, and maybe me, Ben, and Eric, and maybe
oh,
Sean or
great.
whoever get on and do a little collab with them too. Yeah. So I got the message. So yeah, got some projects coming up.
Oh, very good, Darin. And look, for people who want to get a hold of me, I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. You just Google my name, Adam Fitzgerald 911. I come right up on the coast. Dark and Hour with Richard Cox. We're going to be doing another episode in about 2 weeks. So, and I just did an article. I finished an article about Bajinka, and that's released on Medium as well. All right, Darin. Thanks a lot for joining. I had a real good time tonight talking about these issues, and we're going to keep talking about other issues as well to keep our public informed. So this way, we can actually build a movement where we can make real change. Uh,
Absolutely.
right. And
And Adam, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the hour here we had, and I appreciate everything you do. You're one of the best out there. I appreciate all the listeners, everyone. If you have questions or concerns, hit us up. I love talking about this stuff because it's a huge deal. It was a huge part of our history, a huge part of our life. So yeah, absolutely.
the honor is mine, Darren. Really. And guys, have a good night. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.